The college football playoff quarterfinal is here. Only 8 teams remaining have a chance to win a national championship. And there are some of y'all that only think it's like 3 or 4 that have a legitimate chance. But if you got a chip in the chair, you are still in the game. And I got to tell you who's going to win these games and who will win the semifinal games next week, too. But that's up here on Unafraid Show. Make sure that you guys like, subscribe, get notifications, and most importantly, tell a friend about the show and share it. Hop in them comments, man. That's where we need you. First game up, Georgia versus Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. And if I had told you around week 3 that this would be a college football playoff matchup, you would have been like, yeah, right, because Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. Well, they made a resurgence. And now it's Georgia that looks compromised at this point because the question is, does Carson Beck, their quarterback, matter at all? We are about to find out because the betting line barely moved from the Bulldogs -1 point to the Fighting Irish -1.5 when it was confirmed that Beck would be out for the season with an elbow injury. Now, you'd figure that a quarterback who might be a first round pick would be fairly important and change the line a lot. Well, until mid November, Georgia had actually survived Carson Beck almost as often as they had benefited from his play. But he was actually very good in the month before his injury. The quarterback that's going to be out there now is Gunnar Stockton. Dude hasn't thrown a touchdown pass all season long, and he's going to be out there against Notre Dame's defense that held 7 different opponents to 125 yards passing or less this season. I'm actually shocked that the line hasn't moved more unless they had already accounted for Carson Beck being out before it was formally announced. But the reality is, it's Georgia. And the line goes where the money goes. And the assumption is that an SEC team that didn't need good quarterback play to beat Texas twice is going to physically dominate a team that lost to Northern Illinois. And I understand that mindset. I get it. And I understand because Notre Dame gets the reputation of being soft because they have a post-millennial postseason history that would make Newt Rockne roll over in his grave. Because Notre Dame has been a pushover when they've been in the playoff, and people have been like, they need to join a conference if they want to get in and everything else. Because since 2000, Notre Dame is 0-4 in the Fiesta Bowl, 0-1 in both the Sugar Bowl and the Rose Bowl, and they took the biggest margin loss in BCS national championship history to Alabama in a game that Oregon should have been in. But I'm just saying. But the computers thought otherwise. Now, the Irish have been regular season Cinderellas, and midnight keeps striking and turning these major college football bowl games and turning them that carriage that's carrying them back into a pumpkin. Now, the question is this iteration of Notre Dame now, the question is this iteration of Notre Dame's team different? Well, for starters, when their quarterback Riley Leonard and Jeremiah Love run the football, the answer is absolutely yes. The quarterback running back combo have over 1,800 yards and 33 combined touchdowns on the ground, like they're Scott Frost and Amon Green back in 1997, except they're not running the triple option. Now, let's talk about this Georgia defense because they didn't let Texas run the ball in the SEC championship, but against UMass and Georgia Tech in their final 2 regular season games, the Bulldogs surrendered almost 500 yards on the ground. Believe it or not, 500. Honestly, it depends on which version of the Georgia Bulldogs defense actually shows up. The one that can be bullied and makes plays when it counts, or the one that plays with the intensity of a Kirby Smart halftime speech and smothers their opponent. Because Georgia is going to need the latter. If they get the former, they will not win this football game. And they need this game to be low scoring if they have any hope of putting together enough offense to win. Because if this is a 30-point Notre Dame put up, Georgia ain't going to win. And they're not even going to have any hope of winning. And not just because they'll be without Carson Beck, but they also average less than 4 yards per carry in SEC play this season. And they haven't found a running back to go over 100 yards against a Power 4 team all year. Now, Trevor Etienne, he could have a big game. And he did that twice against Texas this year. But then you realize that 32% of Etienne's yards on the season and over half of his touchdowns came against Texas. Where was he all the rest of the season long? And then you look at Nate Frazier, because I believe that this kid is going to be a superstar at running back eventually. But you know, Notre Dame is going to key on the backs all game long and make Gunnar Stockton try and beat them with a wide receiver core that has one of the highest drop rates in all of college football. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish aren't invincible defensively, even though that they're very good, especially to injuries, because they'll be missing three starting defensive linemen, including Riley Mills, who got hurt against Indiana. So maybe, just maybe, the key to Georgia is to test out these backups and see if they still have some of that bully left in them from the 2021 and 2022 national championship teams. Now, my key to victory in this is can Notre Dame run the football? If Notre Dame can run the football and Riley Leonard play without turning the football over, my prediction will come true. Notre Dame over Georgia on their way to the college football playoff. All they got to do is win one more game after that. But this one, Notre Dame. Next game up, Oregon versus Ohio State. Now, Oregon, they've been the number one team in the country for over 2 months now. And while it's been fun to have the Oregon on a bye and have everybody else forget about the Ducks, because a team like Ohio State out there has been bludgeoning the number 3 team in the SEC in Tennessee. Now, it's important to remember that the last time Oregon had a bye, they responded by running Washington off the field in the first half. And if you listen to all the people in the media and everything, oh, why is Oregon even showing up? Why? Why don't they just let Ohio State win? Because that's what's going to happen. They're going to beat the hell out of them like they did Tennessee, right? The number one team in the nation, the team that already beat Ohio State. Ohio State lost to Michigan already, but the team you doubt is Oregon. The team that the lines doubt is Oregon. Maybe listen, Ducks. Maybe you guys should just stay home. What is the point? Everybody knows Ohio State's going to win. Man, Dan Lanning is going to have a field day with that narrative. And you know that there's going to be a video coming out 2 days after the game that is going to shock the world again. Now, I can say, though, that Ohio State this time looks ready to play. They look hungry to play the Ducks, because the last time they said that, they still had Indiana and Michigan to get through, and they didn't earn the right to play Oregon again in the Big Ten championship. But this time they did their work. And this game could have been a fun national championship and probably should be a national championship. And it's possible that the winner is favored the rest of the way going out. Ohio State missing a chance to beat Michigan is the reason that we're in this position in the college football playoff quarterfinals instead of in the finals. Now, I was at this game the first time around in Eugene when my Ducks won 32-31. And I don't think my Ducks played their A+ game. I thought they played their A-B+ game. And they struggled to cover Jeremiah Smith. Will Howard completed 80% of his passes. He didn't throw a pick. Oh, excuse me. He didn't throw a pick that got called an interception. Excuse me. Trayvon Henderson averaged 9 yards a carry. Trayshawn Holden got himself ejected. And Oregon rolled out the kicker, Atticus Sappington, out twice from inside the 10-yard line. And Sappington missed his third kick. And at a minimum, I feel like this 1-point win could have been double digits. And then when you think about it, the quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, didn't even have a great day. And he missed a wide open touchdown to Evan Stewart as well. But Dan Lanning and company have to be grateful for a midseason test like that, because they responded with 4 consecutive blowout wins, even on short rest, and have only surrendered 164 passing yards per game since giving up 326 to Will Howard. Now, for Ohio State, though, they have to be looking at this trip to the Rose Bowl as the difference maker. The number 1 yardage defense playing on a neutral site with friendly weather, and coming off a college football playoff win where it didn't look like Tennessee even belonged in the same division, much less in the same field as them. Now, the Buckeyes might be about to overdose on some momentum. They've handled the loss of offensive lineman Josh Simmons, Seth McLaughlin, and Will Howard as the Buckeyes ranked 4th in the country in completion percentage. So why am I so confident, as you might ask? Why am I so confident that the Ducks will be able to pull this one away? This is about forward momentum, and Oregon doesn't give yards back on offense. If you look at the 11 games that Ohio State won this year, they averaged 7.6 tackles per loss and 3.5 sacks. And against Michigan, 3 tackles for loss and no sacks. And against Oregon, 2 tackles for loss and no sacks. But Oregon isn't going to put themselves in a situation where the Buckeyes' pass rush is going to gain any confidence. They're going to be in favorable down and distance situations, and that is going to have the effect of keeping Ohio State's offense off the field as well. Now, the question is, and I told you guys that the national championship will be won by quarterbacks that can be trusted the most. And if you're asking me, who do I trust, Dylan Gabriel or Will Howard more? It is going to be Dylan Gabriel. He's played in big games and he's played his best in the biggest games of Oregon's season this year. And for generally, he does not turn the ball over, whereas Will Howard has 4 turnovers in his last 3 games. So this game will be decided by, number one, it will be decided by quarterback play. But how will that quarterback play be decided? It will be which defensive line can get pressure. And if you're asking me whether Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimalau, who were highly rated recruits, good players, if I think that they will get more sacks, or Jordan Birch, Mateo Uiagalelei and company, will they get more sacks? I'll choose the latter. Hey, Ducks win in the Rose Bowl and head to the semifinals. Arizona State versus Texas. Texas fans are extremely confident heading into this Peach Bowl, and they have some compelling reasons why they feel like this Sun Devils team won't even be a problem and they are going to just stomp them out. Now, see, there's a lot of people that feel like that. They're like, oh, Arizona State shouldn't even be in the top 4. They got to bye. Why? Oh, Texas is just going to cream them. I don't know about that. But the reason why Texas feels so good, though, is that they're making a trip to Georgia and they don't have to play Georgia because that's the only team that beat them this year, and they did it twice. Now, it isn't wild that we have a scenario where Texas could win a national championship, having lost to the same team twice, while potentially not having to face that team a third time, or even wilder, going 1-2 against the team that if they do meet in the national championship and they win, they'll be like, hey, but we won the one that counted. But the second reason, though, that Texas has to be feeling really good going into this game against Arizona State is that the 3 touchdown passes that they gave up against Clemson, they really feel like an anomaly because this defense is tough, particularly in the secondary, because they're getting 3 interceptions for every 1 touchdown pass that they allow on the season. And the Longhorns haven't given up 4 yards a carry to a team all season long outside of the Florida game. Now, the third reason that Texas fans are so confident is that there is no way in hell that they've been paying attention to Arizona State. They see losses to Texas Tech and Cincinnati and a bye that came only as a result of the rules of the conference winners in the college football playoff. So they're giving them no respect. And that's okay that they're not familiar with Arizona State's game. Why should a team coming off a college football playoff appearance and building toward another pay attention to a team that was picked to finish dead last in the conference that Texas used to play in that they thought was inferior anyway? But if Arizona State is going to surprise folks, though, we're going to know early in this game because the Sun Devils averaged 20 points per game in the first half, whereas the Longhorns only give up about 5.5 points per first half. And Texas is going to throw the kitchen sink at stopping Arizona State running back and all-star Cam Scatterboo, as they should. But the difference between Arizona State at the beginning of the season is that the development of Sam Levitt. He was a guy who couldn't throw the ball that well, and now he is doing good work. Because when Texas Tech got an early lead on ASU, Sam Levitt, he wasn't ready to bring ASU back on his own. And when Kansas State decided that they weren't going to let Scatterboo beat them, Sam Levitt threw for 275 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he's actually thrown 3 touchdowns in 3 of their last 5 games. On the other hand, where Texas has a clear advantage is in their pass rush, because Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill are closing in on 30 combined tackles for loss and 16 combined sacks. And ASU only has 21 combined sacks as a team. Now, if Sam Levitt is getting hit and Quinn Ewers isn't, this will not be a contest. Because if you put pressure on Quinn Ewers He will make some mistakes. But this game, just like some of the other ones, will be decided on who can stop the run. If Texas can stop Arizona State from running the football with Cam Scatterboo, they will be successful and win this football game. And if Arizona State can slow down Texas's run game, because that is the catalyst of this offense, it is not the pass game, it is not Quinn Ewers, it is this running game. So if you stop this run game, you will keep Texas's numbers down and have an opportunity to win this football game. And you guys, make sure that you guys like, subscribe, get notifications, and tell a friend about the Unafraid Show. And go on right now. Go ahead, share. Share with somebody who needs to hear this information. And go down and hop in the comments. Last game up, Boise State versus Penn State. I've seen both of these teams up close, and I've gotten a scare from both of them as well with the Oregon Ducks, because 3 of the top 5 running backs in America could all be on the field at the exact same game. Because you got Boise State's Ashton Jeanty, he's the people's Heisman champion. And the Penn State has Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen all suited up in the same game and ready to show off. Now, Penn State has never lost a game in the state of Arizona. And every college football fan knows that Boise State has had Fiesta Bowl magic against Oklahoma, against TCU, and Arizona. So the question is, who has the advantage coming into this game? Penn State, duh. I mean, are we serious? Penn State finished on average 54 spots ahead of Boise State in the 4 recruiting classes from 2021 to 2024. And the fact that this is only an 11-point line seems like a tremendous credit to the coaching job that Spencer Danielson has done in his first full year at Boise State. And you think about his coordinators, Eric Chenard, and you look at Boise State's coordinators, Eric Chenard and Dirk Cutter, they've done a tremendous job as well. But if Boise State has the top player in this game, in Ashton Jeanty, Penn State may have the next 4, 5, 6 next. You got Ty Warren, Abdul Carler, Jalen Reed, the 2 running backs, and then quarterback obviously favors Drew Aller as well. This is going to be an extremely tall task for the Broncos. But if they do shock the world, it won't be because of Ashton Jeanty. It will not. It will be because a 5'10" dude who has held off a 5-star incoming transfer at the quarterback position made enough plays to keep the Penn State defense off Ashton Jeanty's back. I'm talking about Maddox Madsen, the quarterback for Boise State, whose name you've probably never even heard, whose 22 touchdowns to 3 interception ratio is even more impressive than Drew Aller's 21-7 mark. And this Boise defense is solid. Jaden Virgin and Ahmad Hassanin have almost 20 combined sacks, and they absolutely love blitzing Sayo Oladipo. But how many sacks are the Broncos even going to have a chance to get? What motivation does Penn State have to even try to push the ball vertically downfield? Because Penn State basically runs a 60-40 split anyway in terms of run and pass. They run more than they pass the football. And I expect that this game could be closer to 70% run. And a win over Boise State, it isn't going to shed James Franklin's, he can't win the big one. It ain't going to do it. It is not going to shed that reputation. But it will put him in a position to shed it a week later against the winner of the Georgia Notre Dame game, which means that Boise State, who has been dubbed as the bye that gave Penn State the easiest path, is playing with house money. And we've seen how dangerous that this team can be as an underdog. They gave Oregon massive trouble. And we're going to see if they can do the same thing to Penn State. But it doesn't matter. Penn State's winning this football game, people. They are winning this football game. And you guys enjoy the games. Share the takes. Share it with a friend. The Unafraid Show. Peace out. Catch you guys later.